In this video series, we're going to look at what's called free-form surfaces. Now, in the previous video set, you created surfaces from a profile using projection or revolution tools. Free-form surfaces, on the other hand, are generated from a variety of different sources, including predefined elements or points in 3D space. The surfaces created are infinitely variable, and MicroStation offers many free-form surface creation and editing tools. You really should be aware that free-form surfaces is a complex subject, and if your work requires the use of free-form surfaces, you will need to do some serious experimentation with the tools. Now, for my part, because they are so complex, I'm not going to go through every option available in the tool settings windows. We'd be here forever if I did that. So I'm going to show you how the basic tool works and let you experiment on your own if you need to go that much further with these tools. So the first thing to do is open the required toolbox. And now we're on the Surfaces tool frame, and we're looking at the Create Freeform Surfaces. So I'll open that as a toolbox. Pop it onto the side as usual. Now, as you can see on the screen here, I have a whole series of pre-drawn profiles to work with, and you'll find all of these in a file called module9profiles.dgn in your working files folder. So if you would open that file before you start, then we can work on this together, because I would like you to work with each of these tools in turn. Now, the first tool on the list is this one, which is called Loft Surface. And you'll see there are a couple of options available. The first one is Loft by Sections, and the second one is Loft by Sections with Guide Wires. We'll take a look at both of these. Now, I will take a look at a couple of the options too with this tool. So let's zoom into the first section I want to work with, which is this. And here you see a series of lines. Now, the important thing to remember here is that I drew each line in the same direction. In fact, what I did is draw one line, in this case, downwards, and then simply copied that line to the grid that you see. Now, I'm using lines, but you can use line strings, arcs, ellipses, complex chains, complex shapes, B-spline curves, or edges of a surface. So don't think that you're restricted to just lines. And this is true for most of the profiles that we're working with here. Now, drawing the lines downwards in this case, or upward if you wish, is very important because each of these sections, and each line is a section, must be in the same direction. And direction means that you've drawn it in the same direction, or surface twisting will occur between the sections. And you'll see how this works in a moment. When we select each of these sections with the tool, you'll see an arrow which displays the element's direction. And we can change that direction by data pointing on the arrow. So let's start working with this and see what happens. So the tool is running. Look at the prompts. It says select the first profile. And it also says data drag for multiple profiles, meaning that you can drag a line to select more profiles. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to select them individually in this case. I'm going to start here and select that line. Now notice the arrow. I drew these lines downwards, so the arrow points downwards, but I could click on it to change it to an upward direction. Now I don't want to do that because that will mess things up. Now I'm going to go along and hold down the Control key and select all of the outside lines. I'm not going to go back to this one. You'll see why in a second. All my lines are pointing in the same direction. I have all my selections done. I data point and data point again. And now we see the surface, which is generated. Note the surface is not in a straight line between the sections, but it does go through the section. Let's see how this looks with shaded view. There we are. Quite a simple surface to draw, and using those profiles as the base for the drawing. Now I'm going to try this again, undo that, repeat this process, exactly the same. So pick the first one and hold down the Control key, pick the rest of them. There, and there. But on this one, I'm going to change the direction. But this one is going to stay in the correct direction. So this one is now in the wrong direction. See what happens? Data point and data point. And now we see that we have a twist in this surface. And that's because of this incorrect direction for that profile. Now you may want this, but normally you don't. Normally you want a smoother surface without a twist like this. And this is a very common problem, by the way. You'll encounter this all the time with these types of tools. Now again, just let me emphasize that we don't have square corners for this surface, even though the surface goes through the profile lines. And that's because this continuous surface is defined by the B-spline equation that constructs a surface through each section. Now, to solve this twist problem, you would have to redo this surface, and when you're at this profile, reverse the arrow so that all the directions are in the correct orientation. It's also possible to change the direction of the line without using this tool. There are a couple of tools which will automatically change the direction for you, and we'll look at those later. In the meantime, undo your surface and experiment with running the surface through different sets of profiles to see what results you get. Try that and see, and we'll move on to the next part.